Coming to select theaters and digital on May 10th, I present the newest thriller film, Lazareth, courtesy of Vertical Entertainment. I would like to thank the fine folks for sending me over an early screener to let you guys know if this film is worth a watch. So is it worth a watch? Well, stick around and let's talk about it. Directed by Alec Tibaldi, Lazareth is about Lee, who protects her orphan nieces, Imogen and Maeve, from a self-destructing world, raising them in isolation until an outsider threatens their peaceful existence. The film stars Ashley Judd, Sarah Pidgeon, Katie Douglas, and Asher Angel. Going into Lazareth, I absolutely knew nothing about this film. I got the screener sent over to me, didn't read the synopsis, and didn't look up a trailer, and went into it very fresh. And starting off with my positives of this film is I like the actual atmosphere. It's got that dreary sky. It's very gray out. There's a virus where there was an outbreak, and you get that narration of where the town that they actually lived in was thriving at some point, and now it's not. And you have this aunt who is taking care of her nieces. They're living in this house in isolation. There's a lot of scarcity of items and other things going on, and they're just really just counting their blessings. These two girls have never went out in the wild. It fast forwards later to 10 years later, and the girls, they're more grown up and they're in their teenage years, and they're just kind of wandering through the forest. There is a lot of shots in here where they do like drone shots of the forest. You have a boy that comes up into the forest that you see escape from some kinds of people that you don't really know who they actually are because they don't really describe who they are, and he actually is wounded. They find him and they want to take care of him, and that's when it really throws a monkey wrench into all their plans. The aunt gets really pissed between the two girls because she's really deathly afraid that they'll get the virus, and they have all these animals like chickens, and she's worried that they'll get the virus and then it'll spread to them and then they'll all be dead. They end up keeping the boy, and we learn a little bit about the boy. He's an orphan. His mother just died and he never got to bury his mom. The girls, at least one of them, Maeve, she really wants to go with her mom into town and really see what it's actually like, but she doesn't really want them to go to town. She just tells them that it's really dangerous. There's all these gangs and a bunch of people actually kidnapping people. I found it interesting that Imogen actually took a liking to this boy, mainly starts to have romantic feelings for him and want to have sex with him. And I thought that was very interesting because remember now that she has been living with her aunt her whole life. She's never really met a guy. So how would she actually know that actually exists? I guess if she read some books, or maybe they had a TV or something like that, which they don't really actually show that in the film, so maybe that's where she learned it. But I just thought that was interesting that she really even knew about it. And when this boy is actually there, that's kind of when the chaos really starts to hit the fan. You have this gang that starts to try to come into the house, and they're trying to steal things, and they're trying to look for this boy, and that's really the central point of this film. Every time they're at the table, they always pray to Lazareth, which apparently is a god of some sort, and there's also these commandments that they have to live by, apparently, like being clean, and there's some other ones as well, but I really felt like they never really dove too much into that aspect. It's just kind of there. The score was really off-putting too. There were times where the girls, they would be like walking through the forest and they'd have this music like it was like King Arthur or Maleficent. It just didn't really feel like it felt to actually describe the mood. It felt like it was kind of really out of place and a little bit out in left field. It wasn't terrible music, but it just definitely didn't fit the vibe of what I actually expected, especially for a virus type of film. I feel like the virus portion is just really something that's kind of in the background. It's there to a point, but it really doesn't really go into full effect. Like, you don't see people dropping dead, or you don't really see the virus really spreading anymore. The whole part where the boy actually comes in, that takes over as the central idea of the story, and then they kind of just fill in bits and pieces of certain things that each character is going through. But then by the time they really get to the central point of the ending and what really happens throughout this whole virus and the boy actually being there, the film just ends. And I just felt like by the time it ended, I just felt a little bit underwhelmed by it, because I really thought this was going to really dive into the virus, and there was going to be a lot of things that were going to be happening outside the forest, because a lot of this film really takes place in this house in the forest. It looks beautiful. The forest looks really great. They got a river there. The cinematography looks really good. But other than that, there's not a lot to really grip onto. Now, some of the characters and some of their actions are interesting, don't get me wrong, and I was interested in what was going to be happening during the story, but I just felt a lot of the whole central idea of what was surrounding them wasn't really used to a full effect. There's only one time that they ever leave the forest, and they do show them outside into the outside world, and the outside world is just near a train track. That's really all they really show. So I was very disappointed in that fact, because we really just don't get a lot of glimpse of what actually is out there. It's just a lot of, okay, it's really bad out there, we're going to stay here in the forest. And then you learn a little bit about what the aunt, what she was actually doing, going out there. She's going to get the supplies for the girls. And when they find these supplies, they're just taking them in, being like, you know what? We definitely need to use them sparingly, because there is some scarcity of other things that we actually need. Wrapping up my closing thoughts, acting was fine. Cinematography was pretty good. The camera work was pretty good as well. There is some really good shots that they have in the forest and the whole surrounding of the forest. That was pretty good. Overall, the story needed a lot more work. I felt like there was a lot more questions that I had by the time the film actually wrapped up. And I just felt like there were some things that needed to be tidied up a little bit more and brushed up a little bit more back into the editing room. I just felt like they needed to stretch out a little bit more and utilize it a little bit more, because I was very disappointed by the time the film actually wrapped up. Is it something that you can watch at least once? Yeah, sure. It's 2.5 out of 5 for me. It's not something that I'm going to revisit anytime soon. I don't think I would watch it again. But overall, it's a film that you could watch on a rainy day and be okay with it. But I do think by the time the film ends, you may be a little bit disappointed and definitely asking a little bit more questions as to certain things that actually went down in the film. What did you guys think about this film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just think it was kind of meh? And if you haven't checked it out, are you going to check it out if it's in a theater near you? Or are you going to check it out on digital? Or are you going to skip it altogether? Leave any and all comments down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.